JD Runnels here, Sooners Helping Sooners, and just got a legendary crew with me. Got my guys, Jerry Pettibone and Jay O'Neill, and then my extended family, which we will get into, Brent Byers and Jeanie Loper. Brent and Jeanie, how you doing?
Good.
Very good. Thank you.
We're honored to have you. I'm going to put Jay and Jerry on the spot first, though. Jay and Jerry, this is our first corporate sponsor. They are a blessing. Jakey's mission was to help student athletes. We couldn't really do it without people like Brent and Jeanie. What does their gift to us mean to you guys?
Oh, hey, listen, I can't tell you how much we appreciate their support. And I got to meet them because of you. Because of Berkeley playing at Mount St. Mary's, and you told me about Berkeley, and I came up to watch Berkeley, but Berkeley didn't get to play. But I met Brent and Jeanie, and it was just one thing after another that we invited them down to watch us do some podcasts for some former OU players, and they decided to sponsor those on Sooner Stories. And then one thing led to another, and then they gave us a very generous, largest corporate gift that we've ever had. So we're very appreciative of their support.
Unbelievable, Jay.
Well, as Jerry knows, I'm kind of a numbers guy, and in the nonprofit business, it's tough sledding a lot of times. So being able to have a really strong corporate sponsor, so it allows Jerry and I to do the things we need to be doing, is a true blessing.
Yeah.
And just keeping up things the way they ought to be, allowing us to be around the places we need to go, and we thank you immensely, of course.
Well, Jeanie, as our football players know now, it's ladies first because of your daughter all the time, right?
Yeah.
But I want to hear about your background of any OU football, where you came up, where you grew up, all that stuff.
Well, I grew up and my parents were always OU fans. Honestly, though, until I was with this one here, I never had even gone to an OU game. Always been OU fans. I went to OU for family medicine residency. So of course there's that aspect of things. And I don't know. I mean, really, we just been, I grew up in Tuttle.
Yeah.
Went to medical school.
Yeah.
Good.
You have no choice to be an OU fan around there with Jason.
No.
Get the name like Jason
Yeah,
from there. So
No, that's absolutely true.
that's awesome.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Brent, how about you? Upbringing, OU football
Yeah,
fan?
grew up in Edmond. Been an OU fan all my life. My dad was an OU fan, so I pretty much followed his lead when I was little. Dallas Cowboys, OU Sooners, and LA Lakers. Those were the three. I would play in the backyard. I had my OU stuff on all the time, my little plastic helmets you bought at the TG&Y or whatever. You just put it on a little T-shirt and little plastic things, and I go out there and kick field goals and run touchdowns and whatever I could find out. Usually during OU Texas or OU Nebraska, because we only got to see them a couple of times a year back then. There wasn't on TV very often. Then I went to OU, graduated in 2002, and have always been a Sooner.
Yeah.
Just bleed crimson.
Well, you all have to love football, and it's probably a perfect intro as far as to introducing Berkeley Loper to the world. Just so you guys know, I don't know if I've ever told you all this story, but I coached my son's team in 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, and 6th grade. Worst 5 years of my life. No, kid. It was good. Banging my head up against the wall, seeing the team getting better. Went from, the first year only having 11 players playing both sides of the ball, celebrating a first down, that whole deal. We get to 6th grade, and we had built a team that was about 26 players deep, and my son was the center. And it was the COVID year, and understandably so, his mom being a nurse, and just didn't want him to play. A friend of a friend contacted Jeanie and asked if I would let a girl play on my team. And I'm a football coach, so my first question wasn't, can she snap? And sure enough, she could. Jay and Jerry, you've seen a lot of football. Have you ever seen a girl play an offensive line woman? Have you ever seen a woman that wanted to do that position? What do you think about their daughter playing football?
I think it's amazing. When you told me about Berkeley, I mean, I couldn't wait to come up there and watch her play. Now, she didn't get into the game that I was there for 2 games, but I saw her with her uniform on the sideline and how she interacted with the other players on your team. And she was just like one of them. I mean, she's walking up and down the field, cheering the guys out on the field. And I could just tell she's just this little rock. and it was really, really amazing to see her, and then to meet her parents, and then you tell me how the future that she has as a player for you in your football program, and just our relationship right started. It was really neat. I've never seen that before.
Me either, Jay.
Well, being a coach too, you say, I don't care. When I look at a film, did that block happen? Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Good job or bad
Yeah.
job. That's it.
Yeah. So it never entered my mind. Yeah, you get the job, you line up, you go do it. So that's great. And I'm really proud of that she's doing it and enjoying it.
Well, Jeanie, I'm not a mother, obviously, but I do have a daughter. I hope one day that my daughter could be a generational leader like Berkeley can. I hope one day that she can, take stride. I don't think people understand how much courage it takes to get to get knocked down. And me being the father and having that daughter, I see her get knocked down and I immediately want to run. But I've known your daughter so long, I know she's going to get back up every time. For people that don't know, for off air, just she has to get padded shoes on the top of her shoes because boys step on her foot. Like that's the only injury we can't. She's super tough. Jeanie, what's it like to see your daughter out there being one of the toughest people out there?
I'm just impressed by her every single day. Um, when she was little, she had a lot of struggles. And honestly, whenever she was in 6th grade, and we just kind of joked and said, "Hey, do you want to go play football?" And she's like, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, no, really, do you want to go play football?" And she goes, "Yes." And so, we took her to buy her helmet and her shoulder pads, and she got out in the backyard with her little brother, and he, showed her how to tackle, and she's loved it since then. And then, when she met you and that very first practice, I will never forget, JD asked, "Hey, is there anything that's different about her?" And of course, the boys kind of chuckled and were like, "Well, yeah, there is." And JD said, "No, there's not. She's a football player. She's your teammate." And,
That's it.
she played 6th grade, loved it, ended up and played 7th and 8th grade and 9th grade at Brink, and then her 9th grade year at Westmore. And then went with JD at the Mountain. We found out that he was coaching there. And again, I have to say that those boys at the Mount are super respectful, and I know so much of that goes back to you and how that they've been coached. And, up until this year, she's dealt with some things off of the field by a lot of the football players, of course. But this year, all of them have seen her as a football player. So we appreciate you for that.
Always. Don't make me coach without her. That's my rule. Don't make me coach without her. And what's interesting is we're so football coaches is we're so used to the pronoun guys. I mean, I've had to change my pronoun, which with common times these days. But anyway, Brent, what's it been like for you to see from your view?
It's just, unbelievable. Just watching her in 6th grade and watching her with all the kids bigger than her and her not really knowing a lot about football at that time. She hadn't really watched a whole lot, but she was interested a little bit when I would watch it and stuff. But she said, "I could do that." It's like, "Yeah, sure you could." She said, "No, I really can." "You want to play football?" "Yeah, I do." She's stubborn. I knew she'd try. Didn't know she'd succeed as well as she has. But she really, really has impressed all of us. I mean, it's just been amazing to see her blossom as a person too. The football has helped her more as a person coming out of her shell. I mean, she's very quiet, very reserved, and she's been more vocal now. You can see her outside of that in school and outside of his bougies and have even in our daily life, just her confidence and her, just taking life by the horns.
Yeah.
Short horns, of course.
Oh, I have short horns. I like it. So before we get to Dynamic Wound Care, I wanted to talk about, when they became our corporate sponsors, they got to meet Coach Switzer. What was that lunch like, Jerry?
Yeah, that one of the things that Brent wanted was he always wanted to meet Barry Switzer, and so I was Coach Switzer's recruiting coordinator for 7 years, and knew him when he came to Oklahoma from Arkansas when I was a freshman coach for Jim McKenzie. So I talked to Coach Switzer about Brent and Jeanie and about their interest in seniors helping seniors, and I said, hey, we've got a football. We're going to autograph it for them. We want you to sign it. And then we're going to go have lunch together over at Charleston's restaurant. And he said, hey, I'd love to do it. So we met over there, had a great lunch that day. And I remember you took some pictures of holding that football with all of us and Coach Switzer standing there.
Yep. That's one of the best phase of my life, actually. It's weird to say that, but it really is. I mean, when you idolize somebody from when you're young, and just thinking there's no way I'll ever get a chance to meet somebody famous and somebody who's done all the things he's done, but the college and the pros and Super Bowls and national titles and all that stuff. But he was nice enough to come and meet with us, and it was a real nice treat. And he's just a super guy. I mean, like, best stories ever.
Yeah.
Oh, he is.
Yeah. No doubt. Jay, what did you think about that meeting? I don't think you were there, but just the Coach Switzer effect. Just honestly.
Well, not having been there, but knowing it was going to happen, I knew what was going to happen. He was the ultimate people person.
Yeah.
And he can't go anywhere without everybody know he's there and all that, and they all want to be with it. But I knew it'd be a great business. He's very open. He doesn't have a lot of meism in it. He's just very friendly and very interested in what we're doing. Very helpful to Jerry and I from the very beginning, and I knew it'd be a great meeting.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Well, we've mentioned the corporate sponsorship, and we've got to hear about how great Dynamic Wound Care is. How did it start? Tell me where you guys are located. I believe we have 2 offices, one in Texas, one in here, maybe more than that. Let us know.
Yeah.
Good.
So I've been a nurse practitioner for about 6 years now. I was a nurse for 20 years before that. Was working in ERs in small town Oklahoma, trying to, fill in some rural needs in those areas and hospitalist medicine, sometimes here in the city too. But I was away from home a lot. I was working 3 or 4 days straight in the ER, wouldn't be able to come home at all. I'd stay the night there and everything. Wasn't seeing the family very much. It was putting a little bit of strain on the kids and I's relationship and Jeannie's I's relationship. And she happened to be working in long-term care. And a colleague of hers had a need for, he wanted somebody to try to do some wound care for him, and just on the side, and to see if I could maybe do that a little bit, not have to work in the ER as much, maybe be more here in the city. And went down and got trained in Dallas, took a class, came up, started reading and learning about wound care even more, because there's not a lot of good wound care stuff from our training when we go through school. And I went through it, started going to the assisted livings, the nursing homes, and everywhere, and I just fell in love with the people getting better and the healing and the joy you bring to them whenever they don't have this eyesore anymore, this thing that smells, this thing that they don't like to look at. They don't want to be in public with it. They don't, these bandages and things like that. And so from there, I just decided to start my own company. And it was about October of 2023 we started. We had 4 or 5 employees at that time, and I think now we are up to 55 or so employees. We have a location here in Moore. Well, yeah, it's right on 89th and Penn, actually, South Oklahoma City, Moore. And then we also have an office in Sherman, Texas, that we're getting ready to open probably in 2 weeks.
We've got the location in Enid.
Yeah, we have a location in Enid.
Talk about what you guys do. Who do you see? Let me know.
We do wound care at somebody's either house, nursing home residence, or assisted living. So we actually don't go to a hospital or anything like that. So we just take our stuff and go to them. We do all procedures, all things you can do, wound care related. We could do it in a clinic. We still do it at their house. And people that can't get to the clinic, people that need somebody to come to them, we're there for them. We go all over Oklahoma. We have patients in all 4 corners of the state. We employ, I think, 10 practitioners now. And they've got 3 positions and a PA. So it's just growing and growing. I mean, we're out there to try to help as many Oklahomans and Texans as we can.
That is awesome. Well, their giving nature is what I want to talk about next. And Jakey's dream just couldn't have gone on without people that are just giving. It just couldn't. I've never met more giving. You guys inspire me to give, and it's not even really always a financial deal. You know, with sixth grade football, I was used to building the team up and bringing water bottles and things like that, and sending out a group text message, group chat to all the parents and asking for something, and it was crickets, Jerry and Jay, and all of a sudden, we get this girl playing for us in sixth grade, and new water bottles pop up, and a new tent pops up, and I'm thinking, man, life is great. But I really mean that you guys inspire me to give. What's their giving nature mean to you guys?
Well, obviously, it's helped us tremendously. And just talking about the number of employees you have, 2 former athletes at Oklahoma came to us, uh, and Ricky Brady, big tight end, played at OU, played in the NFL. He originally contacted Coach Switzer and was looking for a job. He wasn't doing very good with kind of the nonprofit that he had at the time. And so I recommended him to Dynamic Wound Care, and they was able to interview and get a job, start to work for these people. And I just, I felt like that Ricky would do a good job because he's got such a good personality. He's a good looking guy, really outgoing. But I didn't realize he would take off and do as well as you tell me he's done. Then maybe a month after that, then we hear from Craig Wigington, who played basketball for my best friend, John McLeod, when John was a basketball coach here. And anyway, the Wigington, a lot of players I recruited were in the FCA group with Craig when he was a player. Steve Kunkel, Obi Moore, Sherwood Taylor, guys like that really knew Craig. And so he had a special need and recommended him to you guys, and you hired him.
Yeah, they're both doing great.
And so, I mean, that to me, it's kind of making the circle with the support that we get from you, and that you're able to hire people that really have a need to meet that need for them and their families. That's what this is all about.
Absolutely, Jay.
Well, I think maybe there's a little misconception that you're working with guys that are in college or immediately out of college, and all of a sudden you call and you get them a job. Well, that's not the way it works. In matter of fact, that's really what was a problem for Jakey, was that his companies went to the HR way of hiring. It became very, very difficult to get people employed, and so it took a lot longer than you would expect. And the people we work with here, we have some immediately out of school, but both Craig and Brady, they've been out of school a while, but the need is still there. So you have to just keep working with them, and sometimes it's 5 and 6 jobs before it really settles in. And so it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of help to stay with it for that amount of time. So you got to be able to spend the time to get it to happen.
Yeah. Jeanie, you're such a giver. And I'll just tell you kind of jokingly, but Jeanie gets mad if I ask anybody else for something. I mean, she's that type of giver. I promise you they've done more for me personally. Obviously coaching their daughter has changed me as a coach. But myself as a coach, they've changed my trajectory as well. So I thank you both for that. But where did your giving nature come from?
Oh, my mother. Yeah. I mean, my parents were always, the ones that would give their shirt off their back. Even if, they didn't have but $2, they would give somebody $1.75. And so that's where it comes from. And then just being able to do it. I've been a position for 20 years now. For 20 years. And so obviously with being in medicine, that's just, part of my nature of, taking care of people. But then, with having Dynamic now, and, we've been able to provide more for people that need it. We've had patients that have needed cushions for their wheelchairs or who needed shoes. And
Here.
yeah. And
That's what I
so,
there.
yeah. And so, I mean, we'll go out of our way and make sure that we buy those just to keep them from getting more wounds.
Right.
And so, if their insurance isn't going to cover it, I mean, as much as we love seeing our patients, we would much rather see them healthy. And so, but that's just what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to tell a little personal story, Brent. I hope you don't mind, but we had a young family, well, just a family at our school that got behind financially. And it was around Christmas time. And not only did Brent and Jeanie get them ahead on Christmas, on their financials, but they also got the entire family Christmas presents.
Wow.
That's the type of people you are, Brent. Where'd that come from?
I think kind of what Jeannie was saying. I mean, all growing up, we didn't have a whole lot growing up. Didn't have, I grew up in Edmond, but I didn't grow up in everybody's Edmond.
Yeah.
I grew up in Tech Edmond. But back then it wasn't that bad. But as far as like the high powered stuff and all the rich houses and everything, and just seeing my parents always do something for somebody in the neighborhood, always have kids come over, watch them, have people. We didn't have a lot of money, but we had a lot of things, time we could give, or other things. I would babysit kids for free and then, mow lawns for free just to help people out, older people in the neighborhood that didn't want to do it. I just always felt like that's what you're supposed to do in life. Always felt like if you had something and somebody else didn't, then it's probably best to share.
Yeah.
And so we teach our kids that. And as adults, we kind of forget sometimes that,
Yeah. Sure.
you still got to help everyone,
Yeah.
whether you know them really well or not. At some point, it'll always come back to you in a good way.
You bet.
I love that. Put out good karma, get it back.
Mhm.
Jerry, banners are one thing.
Right.
Advertising, those things, those are great. What does a corporate sponsor mean to our foundation as far as going forward?
Well, it allows us to run the organization the way we really need to. Like Jay mentioned earlier, when you're a nonprofit, you're always in the fundraising business and trying to keep ahead. And so we have a lot of different events. We have lunches. We've had Coach Stoops speak. We've had J.C. Watts did a luncheon for us. But our big fundraiser is the Barry Switzer Golf Classic, and the Tuesday before the Oklahoma-Texas game every year. And that's really helped us. But and until Brent and Jeannie got on board with that gift that we can supplement, we can add to, we're always worrying about how much further can we go to keep the doors open. And we've done it for 10 years now. But he and his wife have with their gift have enabled us to kind of relax, spend more time working with former players that need help than always worrying about fundraising. So it's been a tremendous blessing.
Jay?
Well, it gives you a long-term view. You can think about things like what he's talking about. You're not just constantly right now having to solve the problems of today. You can think about the long-term planning. And that's very helpful when being able to work with people. And we have done a lot of things. I mean, you're thinking about jobs, but people have a lot more issues than just jobs. And we deal with a lot of issues other than that, including helping with substance sometimes, or sometimes family issues or whatever. So having a long-term view is very, very helpful.
Jeannie, what's it mean when you hear these guys who were established OU legends here that basically you're helping set our business forward?
I mean, again, it goes back to just being the giving people that we are. I mean, we love to help people out. And, and being able to see that, what we're doing is improving somebody else's lives just means so much to us. And our kids are seeing that. The kids are able to learn from all of that as well. Sometimes they're a little bit extra giving, with,
Yeah.
but,
Reality.
but, they're learning as well from us. And so, you know, being able to work with you guys in, this organization where we honestly would have had no idea that there was a need here. Um, it's been so enlightening, and it makes you, step outside of your normal little box, and then just being able to see that we are making a difference in people's lives. And not only that, but the two men that we've got an opportunity to hire and to work with, and they're fantastic and truly making a difference for Dynamic. And so again, what you were saying, it's, you get back what you put out there.
Yeah.
And so,
I don't want to get emotional, but you all picking there, it's a hard transition. You go from 85,000 people screaming your name and knowing you to feeling like nobody does. You go from feeling like you have the world at your fingertips to you don't know what a real job's like. I know in business, I think they say in business, people buy products, but I think people buy people. They buy you. Tell me about Dynamic. Why should somebody? I know why I would buy Dynamic. Wouldn't care. Jeanie, you convince our viewers why they need to come in.
well, so there are a ton of other wound care companies out there right now. And, they're popping up everywhere. The biggest difference, I think, that separates us from any of the other companies that are out there, I mean, honestly, it's Brent and I, and mostly him. We make our patients a priority. And, if we're not able to, you know, get them the help that they need, then we go that extra step and try to figure out how are we going to do this? How are we going to fix this? These wounds are life-changing for people. They're terribly painful. A lot of times they have odor, and then, the expense of changing dressings. It's, it's humbling to see, where these patients, are at. You get to go into their homes, and a lot of times, we've got our nurses that go with us, and so we form relationships with these patients. And, I don't know of any other wound care company where you've got the CEO and their chief medical officer out there seeing patients. It's just not heard of. But that's where we want to be. We want to be out there making sure that our patients are taken care of.
30 seconds, Brent. Why Dynamic with Brent?
What she says, we really put the patient first. We're never going to not do something that's right for the patient if we have the means. And if we don't have the means, we'll help find somebody who has the means for that patient. It's a special bond you make with the patients. I mean, you're with them for 2 or 3 months at a time, sometimes even longer, depending on the wounds. Giving them hope. A lot of these patients don't have a lot of hope that their wounds are ever going to get better. And if I can't convince them that I can heal it, how are they ever going to want to try to let somebody heal them?